Today's sermon is called Love That We Call God is a Strange Attractor by Reverend Don Hutchings, and it is based on this reading. Jesus of Nazareth was an obscure, poor, brown Jewish rabbi living in an oppressed part of the Roman Empire, whose death continues to impact the world. His death was relatively unremarkable. Thousands upon thousands of unruly inhabitants were executed during Jesus' lifetime by those charged with the task of establishing and maintaining order by force. To the powers that be, Jesus' execution was little more than a routine death of a homeless outcast who spent far too much time creating social unrest. Nothing more than the insignificant death of a troublemaker without influence in the halls of power, who would not or could not moderate his own behavior. He dies under the rule of law, and yet the impact continues to reverberate all around the world nearly 2,000 years after it should have been long forgotten. Late last fall, nobody's really sure exactly when or to whom it happened, but sometime last fall, a person so obscure that history will fail to name them, someone living in an empire where order is maintained by force, got sick and died. The impact of that death has kept millions of us all around the world locked inside our homes, avoiding tiny droplets whose impact upon any one of us could be catastrophic. For months now, I have heard various people refer to these strange times which we are living as chaotic. We wonder what it will take to bring forth light out of the chaos which continues to swirl around us. When the impact of apparently insignificant events can create waves which reverberate throughout creation in an endless whirl and swirl capable of sweeping us off our collective feet and setting us adrift in stormy seas, where are we to find moorings to set us right? It makes sense to look to science as a way of knowing, so that we might chart a course to solid ground. Clutching our visions of chaos, let's cross into unfamiliar scientific territory to explore the contours of what physicists call chaos theory. Actually, it would be more accurate to say, let's examine a small droplet of chaos theory. The term chaos theory was coined back in the 1960s by a mathematician named Edward Lorenz, who worked at MIT as a meteorologist. Lorenz was trying to use a complicated mathematical formula to develop models to predict the weather patterns in systems. During the course of his research, what seemed like an insignificant computer input decision revealed the impact of unintended consequences. Lorenz had rounded off the number 0.506127 to 0.506, assuming the difference of 0.000127 was insignificant, that its impact would be inconsequential. Lorenz turned out to be wrong. What appeared to be a tiny inconsequential number turned out to have a significant impact. That tiny number, somewhere in the mere millionths of a difference in the barometric pressure, capable of only an infinitesimal impact on wind speed, no bigger than a baby's sneeze or the beat of a butterfly's wings, that tiny change at the beginning of a weather system turned out to be the difference between a blue sky and a monsoon. Lorenz coined the phrase butterfly effect to describe this phenomenon. Today, quantum physicists use the butterfly effect to describe what happens when a small change in one place in a system can result in a ginormous difference in a later state. The mere flapping of a butterfly's wings has a ripple effect which multiplies over time and changes weather patterns thousands of miles away. Yeah. This unintended consequence of our actions are almost unfathomable. Somehow, the randomness of events coming together makes life seem just that, random, and we are left hovering over the formless void, longing for a creative power strong enough to call forth light from the darkness. Fortunately, not all darkness is terrifying. New life begins with darkness. Whether life is cocooned in the waters of the womb or planted in the darkness of the earth, the seeds of life require darkness to thrive. A few Sundays ago, our minister, Robin King, spoke about this same parable about the sower. Jesus used this parable to teach how important the state of our hearts is. Many read this parable and say, "Aha! Finally a parable without hidden meaning, a parable that we can understand." But that was back when we believed that God was in charge of everything, the one who is up there manipulating everything, that God we have long since retired in favor of divine mystery, which lies at the heart of reality, the mystery which is the love we called God. Believing that we live and move and have our being in God, who lives and breathes in, with, through, and beyond us, means that we must dig a little deeper to find the hidden seeds sowed by a sower who lives and breathes in, with, through, and beyond us. Theologian Robin Mayers states in his book, God Saving from Religion, "It is comforting to believe that we exist because God intended that we should exist. It means we are here in our present form because, as the property of Genesis asserts, the poetry of Genesis asserts, humans are the final consummate project of a creator who had us in mind all along. Chaos theory, on the other hand, suggests that we are a one-time, non-repeatable, fantastic, but essentially meaningless occurrence. Go back and introduce even the smallest variable, say a primate virus, just at the right moment, and your Aunt Martha would not exist, nor would you, nor would anyone else you love. Except that isn't exactly what chaos theory says. It is paradoxically named because Lorenz believed that the results would appear chaotic, may in fact be ordered at the outer limits of some mysterious boundary. You never get the same results twice, but there is also a kind of phenomenological edge beyond which those final results never go. Lorenz mapped this boundary and called it a strange attractor. When he looked at his graphs, he realized that although the weather patterns never repeated themselves, they all traced a pattern that was undeniable, a self-imposed elegance that kept what appeared to be chaotic from flying off the page. Some people have compared this boundary, this strange attractor, to God. Even the tiniest seeds are capable of giving birth to the most awesome creations. Your life, my life, our lives together, there are all sorts of possibilities. Random, perhaps unintended consequences, almost certainly, but also splendid opportunities. You see, we are all wonderfully made, endowed with the capacity to choose, which means that in addition to circumstances beyond our control, there are also circumstances within our control. Each and every one of us can choose to perpetrate random acts of kindness, outrageous outpours of generosity, ridiculous displays of hospitality, dangerous demonstrations of courage, along with extravagant acts of love. So what does love look like in these strange and chaotic times? Love looks like you. You speaking out when you hear injustice, listening with a fierce passion to someone who desperately needs to be heard, standing in solidarity with the poor or the oppressed, or tenderly touching the shoulder of someone who is lost, feeding the hungry, giving a cold glass of water, or welcoming a stranger. It's you, daring to move beyond your comfort zone, wearing a mask, kneeling in prayer, refusing to give up. Love is you and I working together with all the many embodiments of love. It may appear to the world that your one precious life is insignificant, hardly worth mentioning in the grand scheme of things. Then suddenly, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings, your random acts begin a journey. We know not where. Meyer insists that to choose is life's most powerful, most spiritual, most godlike activity. We are indeed living in strange and chaotic times. There are forces out there who would have us restore order so that we can return to what is familiar. We could simply just choose to plant the same old seeds, or we could put our faith in the strange attractor and trust in the elegance of creation to ensure that we don't fly off into oblivion. For this attractor holds our existence in a miraculous web of tiny occurrences which have power beyond our wildest imaginations. So, Let us choose to plant seeds of kindness, generosity, hospitality, and courage, so that love, which is the mystery we call God, can live, move, and have being in, with, through, and beyond us. Let us be the creators we were created to be. For we were created out of chaos, and we are held in love, which is the mystery that gives us the audacity to choose what seeds we will plant. Let us be random, outrageous, ridiculous, dangerous, extravagant sowers of the seeds of kindness, generosity, hospitality, and courage. Let us be the love in the world, love which is beyond and beyond and beyond that also. Amen.